Hi, everybody. It's so good that you're joining us, and I am so excited to be with you to teach you some really important things that will help your children become more emotionally intelligent. And that is our goal, that your children become more emotionally intelligent so that when they interact with the world, they have a better understanding of the kinds of things that go on that can frustrate them and that they can process that and deal with it better.
So the cadence of the every talk that we have live and recorded is going to be align your values, know your child, and love your motherhood. And the way that that's going to work tangibly is she's going to talk about two values that she has developed in her own motherhood and counseling thousands of women over the last 37 years. I'm going to talk about knowing your child. We're going to discuss their core desire, their core fear, their apology language, their stress language, and their love language. And then hopefully we're going to discuss those things about you too. And then the love your motherhood is we're going to provide some practical or tangible ways that you can adventure with your kids and relax with your kids. And so she will cover that as well. So I'm going to kick it off today and start with talking about knowing your child. And so I want to give you a list and have you rank the things that I say, okay? So pull out a piece of paper, pause the video, and then you're gonna write a word, and then you'll rank it up or down, or you could write them all and then kind of rank it next to it, okay? But these are the statements, and I want you to rank them 1 through 9. I desire to be good. Number 2, I desire to be wanted. Number 3, I desire to be uniquely seen. Number 4, I desire to be taken care of. Number 5, I desire to experience loyalty. Number 6, I desire to be capable and competent. Number 7, I desire to be loved. Number 8, I desire to be safe. And number 9 is I desire to be fully present. Give those a rank 1 through 9, and you're going to be asked to send those in through email to us, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Then I want you to, in a different column, rank these statements 1 through 9. Okay, so we're moving from desires to struggles. I struggle with deception. I struggle with anxiety. Number 3, I struggle with being lazy or slothful. Number 4, I struggle with greed. Number 5, I struggle with being proud or pride. Number 6, I struggle with lust. Number 7, I struggle with gluttony. Number 8, I struggle with jealousy. And number 9, I struggle with being resentful to others around me. Now that you know those statements a little bit, we have a theory, if you will. This was actually created by one of my parents are both therapists, so mom and dad, and brother and sister-in-law and brother-in-law while we're at it. But
family business now.
It's a family business. But my dad has a colleague who they went to seminary, graduate school together, who kind of came up with this theory that each of us has, we'll call it an area of sin, or an area of struggle that almost all of our actions and emotions in the negative way kind of like manifest out of, okay? So you should be one of these 4 things: fear-based, shame-based, anger-based, or pride-based. And I'm going to give you just a couple of examples. So I am pride-based. With this list of I desire to, typically I desire to be uniquely seen and wanted, or even respected would be another word for that. And so most of what I do comes out of that desire, because the root of that is pride. I want people to not only know me and like me, but I want them to respect me. And so the actions that I take are trying to get respect, right? And so there are many times in my life where I'm not working out so that I can be strong. I'm working out so that I can look good because of the area of pride. And you might take somebody who is more shame-based and they want love. And so, maybe, why would you work out?
Well, I do work out because it's the healthier thing to do so that I can live longer and be healthy in that living.
And love better, maybe?
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, another example would be if you're struggling with, like if you're anger based, then very likely you're going to, things are just gonna make you mad. You're gonna be irritated a lot. You're gonna be ticked off, right? Like a lot of anger based people have road rage. That would be an example of somebody who is anger based. Do you have an example of somebody who would be shame based?
We did shame. Yeah, but shame-basedness is that sense. Well, shame-basedness means not I did bad, but I am bad. So there's this second-class citizen mentality of, somebody else deserves to be loved, but I don't necessarily know that I deserve to be loved, and that's what shame-basedness is. And so there's
in some ways you're earning your love.
The fear we didn't do.
Yeah. So a good example of fear is my dad is fear-based. And so when he used to babysit my kids when they were really little, like I'd give him the whole routine, and this is when they go down for a nap. And that man either didn't put them down for their nap because he was so afraid that they were going to die on his watch while they were sleeping, or he would go in there like every 30 minutes to check on them to make sure that they were breathing. It was really hard for him, and he did not appreciate having to have them overnight because he was so scared. So anyway, our decisions kind of spring out of one of those four things. Okay, so try to figure out if you are just kind of watch yourself throughout the week, watch the loops that you have in your head if you're one of those things, and then watch your kids too, so that you can begin to piece together your child. So we talked a little bit about core desires and struggles today. We're going to talk more about that in the coming weeks. Next week we'll be talking about your stress language, and then we'll move into love languages and apology languages as well.
Great. So I'm going to tell you 2 of my 12 mantras, and I came up with these really quite quickly. These are things that are messages that I wanted my children to know so that they could understand the way the world works and the way our family works, or the way we were going to be functional. The first one is, I want you to know that it's really important that you teach your children that you require respect from them. And that you require respect of their grandparents and of their teachers and whomever. That doesn't mean that they have to be walked over, but it does mean that there has to be given to those kinds of people a level of respect. I remember especially this one saying to me when she was little, "I don't love you anymore." And that triggers a lot of parents to be like, "Oh no, what did I do wrong? I want my child to love me." Trust me on this. It's very hard to get your child to stop loving you. I've seen a lot of dysfunctional situations and the child still loves their parent. It's very hard to stop loving your parent. So that's not going to happen. They're just trying to assert their frustration with you, and that's why they say things like that. And so I very calmly would say to her, "You don't have to love me, you just have to respect me. You have to respect my authority. Right now, I'm in charge. I know you want to be in charge," because she's very much of a leader and was all her life. But right now, I'm in charge. And so it took all the power away from this statement that she would make, "I don't love you anymore." And whatever the statement is that your children do, don't get triggered by that. Just know that you have to teach them that they are required to show respect. And I think all 3 of my children are very respectful, even though I don't feel at all like they're being walked over, because that's another skill, to learn how to set boundaries, and we're going to talk about that in another quarter, actually. So that's just a requirement of your children, and they need to know that, and they need to know it very early. The next one I want to talk about is fairness. And you hear your children say things all the time, and they'll notice that that's not really fair. So on the one hand, as a parent, I want you to be as fair as you can be, and I think that's really important. If a child experiences you having a favorite child, that's really damaging. And I can give you all kinds of examples from the world of seeing that happen and how damaging that would be. So if you're gonna like one of the things we would do to be fair at Christmas was we would give each child 3 presents or 4, whatever it was. I wanted them to each have the same amount to unwrap, and we still kind of think about that when we're buying Christmas presents for our kids. But fair isn't necessarily equitable. So an example that she was talking to me about earlier was her oldest daughter is 13, and she has the ability to cook her own food, and she has a phone because she goes places where she may need a phone. She just got it, by the way. So Trisha was really good about waiting till 8th. I think that's a really important thing. But sometimes the younger ones will be like, well, that's not fair. She gets to do X, Y, Z. It's not necessarily equitable. There is an age appropriateness to fair. And sometimes even when we were giving gifts when the kids were little, her gifts might cost more than their gifts did because she was older and she was, into stuff that was more expensive. But she still it was fair because she got the same amount. So you want to evaluate how to pull that off, how to be fair and let your children perceive it as fair, but at the same time understanding that it's not always going to be the same. You can't, if you give this child a carrot, you're not necessarily going to give that child a carrot. Maybe they don't like carrots. You're going to find something else to give them. So find that balance and then teach them that when they're out in the world, it's not necessarily going to be fair. And you wish it was, but they need to expect the fact that it just might not be, and to not be surprised by that. I think that's a lot of the point of the reason that I give you these mantras, because I think it's really important that kids understand in our household, we're going to try really hard to do it like this. We're not perfect. We're not always going to do it right. Sometimes we're going to even really do it wrong or even poorly. But that doesn't mean that we're not trying to live within this framework. And that's what my mantras are really about, is helping them understand that in the household, we're going to have this framework. But out of the household, you might not get that framework. And you don't need to complain about that. You just need to know that sometimes that's going to happen. And then the 2 practical things that I want to give you, and I talked to my husband about these, and so a lot of these come from him and I putting our heads together on daily or weekly practical ideas for you to love your motherhood. And the first one is all about expectations. When I took my children anywhere, to the grocery store, to a family member's house for Christmas, like an aunt, uncle kind of person, the gamut of things that you take your child to. If I did what I call my preamble, which was to prepare them in advance, this is where we're going, this is what's going to happen, this is what I expect of you, it always went better. And if I forgot to do that because I was hurried or I didn't think it was important, or maybe I didn't know what to expect in that situation, frequently it did not go well at all. It was such a huge difference. So I really want you to set your children up for success, and you do that by telling them in advance what you expect of them in a situation.
It's actually annoying how often you need to do it, though.
Yeah. The second one I wanted to talk to you about today is listening and talk times. There's 3 times that talking, it becomes a natural extension of the environment that you're in. Bedtime, dinner time, and car time if you're alone with one child, or if somebody's doing something in the back and they're not paying attention. You really want to invest in those opportunities. When she was in junior high school, she loved to stay up late, and I would go in her room at 11 o'clock at night, and I would talk to her, and she would talk to me. That was a time when she became very verbal. So I valued that, and even though I was tired or I wanted her to go to bed because she had school in the morning, I did those things because I knew that that was a time when she was going to open up to me and really share with me. And my younger daughter was different. She would open up for a short period of time. We owned a horse. Horses are money pits, so we didn't own it for very long. But when we went out on the trail, we had one horse, so I was the lead horse. The horse would follow me, and I would walk, and she would open up with me and talk to me. And so I prioritized those times and made sure that we got out to see the horse, in part because I knew she would open up with me, and that was just a really important thing. So prioritize talk times with your kids and learn to ask them questions without necessarily questioning them. It's not a time to interrogate, and it's not even necessarily a time to, I mean, sometimes it's a time to solve it, but it's not a time to necessarily correct it. It's really a time when you want them to just have a free space to talk. Now, sometimes there would be times when I would give them warnings about, especially if they were talking about a relationship with their friend or whatever, I might say, okay, you need to know that it might not go that way. So let's talk a little bit about how it, if it goes this way instead, how you want to respond to that. So there were some times when I was trying to give them a little bit of a heads up or help them think about the situation differently than what they were describing to me in that moment. But I tried really hard not to let it be a time where I was going to do a lot of correcting, because I knew then that they wouldn't necessarily enjoy that talk time, and I wanted them to have the freedom to just tell me what was going on in their life, with me just saying, oh, that's really interesting, or oh, I'm so glad you shared that with me, as opposed to me jumping in and being the mother at that moment. And you have to figure that out with each one of your children when they are more apt to talk to you about things that are on their heart or things that are going on in their life. Because a lot of times, like especially when they get home from school, they frequently, how was your day? Good. And they just are not interested. And you can probe, and I do with her kids too. I still try to probe, like what had happened, today that frustrated you or whatever. But they're not necessarily interested in talking at that moment. They might just be more interested in chilling when they get home. And so that's the beauty of figuring out when does that child want to talk to me, and capitalizing on that moment. So have a wonderful day.